Hi, I'm California State Treasurer Fiona Meng, and I am here with the fabulous Congresswoman Grace Meng from my hometown of New York. And we're just going to have a little conversation here and just talk about who we are, how we got here, how some of the barriers and challenges there are back then and maybe still are. So I'm going to open it up first. Congresswoman, how are you doing today?
I'm good. It's such an honor to be here with you, Treasurer Ma, and to our whole Emily's List community. Thank you for all that you do to help women run for and get elected. I'm pumped to be here.
Exactly. Early money is like yeast, which is amazing that it stands for Emily's List. But anyway, so when you were in the legislature, how many APIs were in the New York legislature when you were serving?
Great question. So I was the only Asian American state legislator at the time. I couldn't even form my own Asian caucus, but luckily my awesome colleagues invited me to join the newly created Black, Puerto Rican, Hispanic, and Asian caucus. So I had a home to go to. Now there are a few more members.
Yeah, so when I got elected to the San Francisco Board of Supervisors in 2002, San Francisco, which is predominantly Asian, I was the only one elected at the time. And now I think half of the council out of 11 are Asians. So we've actually come a long way. Like in New York, have people feel empowered? Are they registering to vote more? Are they showing up at the polls? And, maybe this whole Stop Asian Hate, I know has really energized a lot of my relatives who typically don't get involved. And now their young kids are now out there and, leading these rallies and on the microphone. I mean, it's so nice to see.
Definitely. I think that this past year or so has really been a galvanizing moment for our Asian Pacific American community. Some of it is because of all the increase in hate incidents against the community. People really realize that we cannot be seen as invisible and silent anymore, that we have to speak up and get involved. And if you just look at the election results from November 2020, we saw the tremendous increase in turnout from the Asian American electorate all across the country.
Yeah. So it's interesting because right now in the California State Assembly, we have the most amount of APIs elected, but we have not had a woman elected to the legislature since 2014, which is kind of amazing. So it begs to ask the question, like, is it harder for women to run for office? What do you think?
Of course, it's harder, but that's why we're so grateful for organizations like Emily's List, who really help give us guidance and make women candidates to be the viable candidates that we are. I'm such a fan of yours, Treasurer Ma, and I've watched you rise across the country from here in New York. You're the first statewide elected woman of color, I believe. I mean, can you tell us about the challenges in getting there and advice that you might have for those who might come after you?
Well, there's been a couple of statewide electeds, APIs, Kamala Harris, Betty Yee is the controller, but I am the first API woman of color, CPA, to be elected state treasurer. But I do think growing up in New York, where New York is fast paced, right? Everybody is like moving, going, striving all the time. When I came out to California, the vibe was a little bit slower. And because of that, I still have my type A New York personality, and it's enabled me to kind of rise, up the ranks. And this is my fourth elected office. And I love serving the public, helping people, and just being, part of a state that's the fifth largest economy. And we don't take that for granted here at all. But we do depend on Congress a lot. So what you're doing and others in DC is shaping a lot of the policies, and we've gotten so much money from the federal government through the different stimulus packages that it has made a huge, huge difference in California. So I thank you and others for what you're doing in DC, obviously with a new administration. But I know that the Asian Congressional Caucus, what is it? What do you guys call yourselves?
APAC.
APAC. Yeah, and I know Judy Chu, our congresswoman from out here, is leading it, but you all are super rock stars, and I know there's a lot of women that are in KPAC, you know? So maybe you can tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, definitely. KPAC, we are at our strongest numbers and membership ever. We did lose a member, but that's okay because in Kamala Harris, we now have our first Asian American and Black vice president. So that was a very exciting promotion for our KPAC member. But really, this Congress is the most diverse Congress ever, with the highest number of women serving. And what we've seen are, as we see the results of the American Rescue Plan, you know, lifting so many children out of poverty, getting shots and vaccines into the arms of Americans, and making sure that our country is coming back stronger than ever from this pandemic. And now, as we put together this next jobs plan and families plan, what we see the benefit from electing women is that women and our children and families are very much at the forefront of the conversation of the families that we have to help and to make sure that we are strengthening our caregiving economy and our care and social infrastructure. Too many women have fallen out of the workforce during this last pandemic. So we are really excited to work with so many new women members and longtime, so many women who Emily's List helped get into office. And we're really excited.
Yeah, so we really thank Emily's List for all of their support and galvanizing not only women, but men who support progressive women who are rock stars like you. And it's just really an honor. And I know the Biden administration, the three priorities have been COVID, climate, and racial equity. And here in California, we are also, prioritizing those three. And we thank the administration and Congress for putting their money where their mouth is and actually putting more money into family-friendly childcare, education, and other important issues that many women know firsthand. I know I live with my father, who's 85 years old, and as seniors get older, that is top of mind for me, you know, whether we are really going to take care of our older Americans, make sure that they can live in dignity homes. And I'm looking into models for intergenerational housing, for example. But I'm sure you're also cognizant of our family structure and how we're going to take care of multi-generations. I don't know if, I know you have kids, and maybe you can just talk about, you know, how your kids are handling the pandemic and, you know, how they shape what you do every day.
Yeah, well, remote learning's been tough. It's been a challenge for me and for so many parents across the country. But it's true, we really have to assess and prioritize how our economy and how our laws view and prioritize the caregiving economy, whether that's our children, whether that's our elderly, making sure that people have more mental health support. So many issues that we've seen exacerbated during the pandemic, and hopefully we can do more to help.
Yeah, so I know mental health, my mom suffered from depression for many years, and that's always top of mind, and break the stigma on that, and hepatitis B, and all the other domestic violence are things that I have been working on. And it's just great to have a few minutes with you and any of your top priorities that you would like to share with us.
Well, that's why, I'm really excited for everyone gathered here today. The Emily's List community makes sure that we are electing candidates, women candidates who are prioritizing the issues that are not just women's issues. These are issues that affect every American family. And so whether it's mental health, whether it's caregiving, affordable housing, so many issues, we need our women's voices at the table, and Emily's List makes that possible.
I totally agree. Thank you, Emily's List, and thank you to all of you that support us and giving us an opportunity to serve and represent. Thank you, Grace.
Thank you, Fiona. Keep up the great work.
You too. Look forward to seeing you.